In this video, we'll be going over the assembly instructions of your weld-together kit for the Badlands Offroad jack mount. Tools needed are your welder, grinder discs, flap discs, 4 of these small 2-inch magnets, 2 of these large 4-inch magnets, and your appropriate PPE. This video is meant to be a guide and not a strict set of instructions. All of your welds are going to need to be appropriate for the material thickness and the part you're working on at the time. A weld drawing can be found inside your box as well as on my website at triplind.com. So go ahead, follow along, and I hope you enjoy. Make sure you clean your parts with acetone before you get to weld and get rid of any oil splatter, rust, anything that's so on your part you got your bottom, which is it's equal all across, but on top we have these 2 different slats. I generally, if you're looking at it, this would be your front plate where your vise will actually sit. I generally put it so that your longer tab is on your right side. You're welding it together. You can do it any way you would like. That's the way I assemble them. Some of these welds are going to be on the tabs on the bottom. You're more than welcome to do them on the top. And just when I do them, I do some of them on the bottom. They're welds that generally aren't as important. And for looks, I put them on the bottom. So where I start, there's probably better ways to do it, but where I start is I put the center rib in. And the reason I put the center rib in is because once we get to going, some of these welds are going to be quick. You can sit and you can wait for the whole part to cool down. But, so, like when I'm doing the legs, I'll do here, 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 here. I'll swap back and forth to try to keep that heat equal on both sides. This center rib is going to help keep this whole plate from warping when we're doing that. Ultimately, it's going to keep the whole plate from warping under stress, but during assembly, it's going to help keep it flat while we're welding. I've found that all I need for assembling these, you probably can get away with less, is 4 small magnetic squares, 2 big magnetic squares, and sometimes you don't even need the big magnetic squares. These small ones are the real key. These just need to be tacked at first. Just make sure she's nice and snug down. What you might have to do is, like, this plate's been sitting, so I'm going to have to flatten it back out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold this side, tack it, come over here, hold this side, tack it, and that'll bring the whole plate into being flat. I mean, it's flat as it stands. I can't see it with my eye, but I can see with the rib that it's a little bit off. So as you go along with these, make sure it's square and flat the whole time you're going along. These are just 1, 2, 3 blocks. You can use them for anything you need in your life. So, I'll flip it back over. I'm going to use a couple wood blocks. Obviously, don't start a fire Yeah, don't start a fire if you're going to use wood. I got a fire extinguisher right here, so I'm just going to be wary of it. Yeah, I'm going to go through and burn them in. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to knock these welds. So these are the welds I was talking about initially. There's really no shearing force on this center rib. It's a bending moment. So as long as you get good penetration into these welds, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them and I'm going to knock them all flat so that we have a flat back. And I'm going to do that now instead of continuing to weld, because it'll be nice to be able to have this flat on its back instead of rocking back and forth on these beads. Go out. Go on, boy. Go. Sparks are going to come your way, mister. Go that way. Go that way. One way or the other. Go, go, go. Good boy. Okay. So the point of using that flapper wheel instead of the grinder to bring it all the way down is the flapper you're able to feather those welds in, so you're not taking a exorbitant amount of metal out of this backing plate around it. Just get a cleaner overall end product. Okay, now we have our center rib in, nice and tight. She's not going anywhere, no matter what you do. And we can move on to the rest of it. So as we move down, you're going to start to have issues with work holding. So you got to think about where you're going to put a plate, where you're going to put your magnet or clamp or whatever you want to use to keep it square. And then what's going to be in the way moving forward. So starting on the bottom, grab this little piece, put it right in, and you'll notice when you're putting this in that your magnets are going to cross over your bottom handle support bracket. That's fine. But if we did that first, then we wouldn't have anywhere to hold this little bottom stop in place. So once again, make sure she's all square, which this isn't. With these little magnets, you have your corner. It's normally made to go around your bead if you're going to fillet it or anything. And that can be an issue because you could snap them on there. You can be like, yep, they're holding. Well, it's clearly not square. So make sure they're on there. Make sure she's square. Use a 1, 2, 3 block if you need to. Use a square if you need to, whatever you want to use. That's nice and square. So I'm going to tack her in place. Okay. So now we can go on that little bottom stop. So remember when you're checking these, that you're making sure they're flat, level, and everything, but also make sure that as you're doing that, they're not walking up in their mounts, in their tabs. Okay. to the bottom. These two gals, identical. This bottom bulkhead support. And two of your gussets. All 4 gussets are the same. You can't mix them up. So what you're gonna have to do here is slab that girl in there, put that gusset in, and bring it all together as one piece. If you put this side piece on, this bottom holder, and weld it, you're gonna have to bend it or break it out of place to get that gusset in. Magnet them up. Make sure everything's square, nice and true. Now, these gals can walk a little bit if you're not careful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tack the front, tack the back, weld the front, weld the back. And then the gusset's not going to go anywhere once that side piece is in. So I'll come back after that and I'll weld the gusset in place. And just make sure, look down on it, make sure the whole thing's square. So once you know the whole thing's nice and square, you can see it, you can remove your magnets. So we'll come back and we'll burn it in. So something you're going to want to do here different. Same thing, get it all squared up, make sure she's good, make sure your gusset's in place, flush along the edge. Just touch your bulkhead back in place, and I mean it should, if you've got everything nice and square, this one's actually so, there we go. If you've got everything nice and square, that gal should pop right into place and be good. Now obviously, actually, we're going to leave it in place since we have, this is actually so nice. I'm going to tack these real quick. Excuse me. Okay. Everything's square and true. Burn it in. First piece. Let's see. Thank you, Jack Daniels. Number 7. We'll square her up. Okay, this is another one that's going to be welded on bottom. Because we have a washer that goes in here. A grommet, not a washer. And if you weld it on top, you're welcome to weld it on top, but if you weld it on top, you might have to cut part of that grommet away to get her to stick. Okay, 2 of these gals, they're exactly the same. I don't know if you could see it. 2 of those gals, a little towel on it, they're exactly the same. They go up here. Those are your top handle stops. And same as before, get them lined up. Oh. Okay, we're almost there. Top mounts. Do this side first so you can see it. In, square, gusset, tack and then burn. Same thing on the opposite side. Okay, last structural piece, top bulkhead support. It's up here. So, same as the bottom, if you got it right, she should just slip into place like that. Fixturing this can be tough, and this is actually so close. I'm just going to tack it in place. Make sure everything's square, good. Okay, last pieces are all thread. You can see there's a cross-drilled hole in there. That's for that little hairpin cotter pin that will stop the retention nut from walking itself off. It is pretty important that this is perfectly plumb and level. Once you have her in place, give a little tiny tack on the base up here. Recheck it. So before we plug weld the bottom, let everything cool down, make sure everything's cool. Take your little rubbers, your half grommets, drop them in, and actually put your handles in here. Just to make sure everything fits. Put your handle retention plate on there. Make sure she's nice and square. Make sure that this goes down far enough that you can see your hairpin cotter pin cross drill the hole right there. Once you're happy with all of that, we'll flip it over and we'll plug weld that bottom. So after you've checked to make sure that that piece of all thread is plumb level square. You put your handle pieces in there with the rubber grommets, put the retention plate on, screwed it on, made sure everything is good and fits right. We're going to flip it over. We're going to weld that, and then we're going to grind that flat like we did the rest of them. Those are a little bit longer than they need to be. So depending on tolerance, you'll probably have to weld it and then or cut it and then weld it. But that overall length on the top is what matters, and that's what we need to keep. Too tall, it'll hit the bottom of the jack. Too short, you won't be able to get the hairpin cotter pin in. So take your time with that, get it right, flip it over, weld it. Be real even with that heat. If you try to weld one side, you can hear it. If you try to weld one side, weld the other, weld it, you can actually bend and take and pull that all thread so it's not straight. But this looks good. We can always recheck. Perfect. So at this point, the last thing you have to do is clean up your welds, clean up any splatter you have. I use anti-splatter when welding. I didn't in this example because I don't know if you're going to have it or not. It's worth having. You can get it here. You can get it in a gel, so you can dip the tip of your nozzle in there, stop it from caking up internally. So yeah, clean it up. You're going to want to hit it again with acetone. And then, I highly recommend you take it and have it sandblasted and powder coated. You can rattle can it if you want. Some people might want to do that. But I definitely recommend, having it sandblasted, powder coated properly. Good powder coat will protect it longer than you can rattle canning. Just the nature of things. If you got any issues, you have any questions, feel free to reach out. All my contact information is on the website. Let me know if you have any information or if you want any information on anything, and that'll do it. All right, thanks.